And there's a brother named D.L. Hughley.
Yep.
And until he take accountability, I won't let it go.
What?
Because, right, see, when we say family is sacred,
right,
family is sacred. And we know that you don't cross the line when it comes to family.
Correct.
The bold, no-nonsense queen of comedy sat across from Shannon Sharpe on his podcast, calling him out in a way only she could. She was equal parts charming and cutting, delivering what now feels like a prophecy. She gave him a warning, wrapped in that signature Monique wit, urging him to stop chasing women barely old enough to rent a car and instead find someone who could love him for who he truly is. It was a moment that had everyone laughing, sure, but the truth behind those words hit like a brick wall. Because Monique doesn't just talk to hear herself, she speaks with intent. That day, her intent was clear. She saw a storm brewing and tried to steer Shannon away from it. But did he listen? Absolutely not. Now, that storm has made landfall.
Man, I said, tell me the joke in that, because I don't know what you're insinuating. Then you're involving people that have nothing to do with nothing.
Imagined. What started as whispers about questionable choices has exploded into a full-blown scandal, complete with lawsuits, leaked texts, and accusations so shocking that even his most loyal fans are questioning everything they thought they knew about him. Let's be honest, Shannon isn't just any public figure. He's a Hall of Famer, a media personality, a man who built a post-NFL empire on charm, charisma, and a larger-than-life persona. But even the most polished exteriors can hide messy interiors. At the heart of this case,
and that the was about handcuffs, choking, putting on dog collars. Do you get those at Petco?
At the heart of, she claims their relationship, which began when she was just 19 and Shannon was well into his 50s, a young woman whose allegations have rocked the media. According to her, it was marked by manipulation, control, and a disturbing private side of Shannon no one saw on camera. Her lawsuit is packed with disturbing details, threats, recordings, and behaviors that have left people asking, how did it get this bad? Shannon's attorney publicly offered a settlement. Gabriella's refusal, according to her team, proves this isn't about money, it's about accountability. But Shannon's side calls it a shakedown. Then there's the age gap. Gabriella was barely out of her teens. While technically legal, it raises red flags. Because when a man in his 50s dates someone still figuring out adulthood, the issue isn't just legality, it's about power dynamics and intentions. Gabriella came forward not just with words, but with a legal team led by Tony Busby, a lawyer known for handling high-profile cases. He's not holding back. From text messages to audio recordings, Gabriella's team says they have receipts, and what they reveal is deeply unsettling.
The routine was that Shannon, then they would.
Why was that relevant?
Show Gabriella was just as involved. But the question remains, if it was all above board, why does it feel so messy? Then came the audio. Busby released a 30-second clip where Shannon's tone is anything but playful. It's aggressive, domineering, and frankly, frightening. Shannon's team claims it's a manipulation, taken out of context. But once you hear that audio, it's hard to forget. And let's not ignore the lawsuit itself. Gabriella is asking for $50 million for the pain, suffering, and trauma she says she endured. Shannon's camp calls it a money grab, but the stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about money. It's about Shannon's career, his legacy, and everything he's built. As social media explodes with theories, think pieces, and hot takes, the story has taken on the feel of a real-life soap opera. People are either rallying behind Shannon, siding with Gabriella, or simply watching the spectacle unfold. And then there's Monique, her words from that podcast echoing through the chaos. She warned him, she really did. And now her advice feels like an omen. But it doesn't stop there. More layers are emerging. Shannon's past is coming back into focus. A restraining order from 2010. Allegations from previous relationships. Incidents on set. It's not just one bad relationship anymore. It's a troubling pattern. Shannon's team dismisses these as baseless, but the volume alone makes them hard to ignore. Why is Shannon still on ESPN? The question is growing louder.
And when you have people that continually don't take accountability, that's why you see us in the
audio, the texts, the lawsuit, they're all adding pressure. And the conversation is shifting from what happened to what should happen next. Gabriella's legal team isn't backing down. They're promising more shocking revelations that will leave no room for doubt. And Shannon's side? They're digging up Gabriella's past, pointing to her social media, her OnlyFans, and suggesting she tried to monetize their private moments.
Monday, a lawsuit was filed in state court in Nevada against Hall of Fame tight end Shannon Sharpe because he has become such a massive media star, especially in the past few years. The lawsuit is going to attract.
But here's where it gets even messier. Because while all this is playing out in the courtroom and the media, the public is having a field day, dissecting every detail, every claim, every counterclaim. Social media is ablaze with opinions, theories, and hot takes, with some people rallying behind Shannon and others firmly in Gabriella's corner. And then there are those who are just here for the drama, the spectacle, the train wreck they can't look away from. Let's face it, this isn't just a scandal, it's a soap opera. A real-life drama that's unfolding in real time, with twists and...
You know how this business works.
Right.
So when you allow that to happen, what do you think is going to come back your way?
And speaking of twists, let's talk about Monique one more time. Because while all this is happening, you can't help but imagine her somewhere, shaking her head and saying, "I told you so." She warned Shannon, she really did. And now, as the fallout continues, her words feel more prophetic than ever. Because if there's one thing this scandal has shown, it's that ignoring good advice can come back to haunt you in ways you never expected. And for Shannon, it looks like that haunting is just beginning. And just when you onion, each one more gut-wrenching than the last. Gabriella's accusations didn't just stop at the personal, they bled into the public sphere, dragging Shannon's every move under a magnifying glass. And what's been uncovered than anyone can shut the doors.
What do you think? And D.L. Hughley, please no, brother, we still love you. Just take accountability for it, and we move forward.
Let's start with the timing of it all, because that's been a major point of contention. The lawsuit wasn't just filed out of the blue. It landed like a bombshell right before news broke of Shannon's massive media deal, a deal reportedly worth over 9 figures. Coincidence? That's what Shannon's team would like everyone to believe, but Gabriella's camp has a different story. They claim the timing wasn't strategic, it was survival. According to her legal team, she'd already spent months trying to seek justice quietly, only to be met with silence, dismissal, and allegedly threats. When the whispers of Shannon's lucrative contract started circulating, Gabriella's team decided to go public, insisting that the lawsuit wasn't about money, but about accountability. Yet the optics are hard to ignore. Was this a desperate
It's a claim against someone alleging that some rights were violated, and in most cases what's sought is compensation in the form of damages to make up for whatever it is the person did. And there are all sorts of civil lawsuits, car accidents, defamation. We hear about that a lot because people get sued about things that are said about them in media.
But the timing isn't the only thing raising eyebrows. Shannon's response, or rather his team's response, has been as calculated as it's been combative. From the moment the lawsuit hit the headlines, Shannon's camp has been in full-blown damage control mode, painting Gabriella as a manipulator, a liar, and most controversially, an opportunist. They've leaned heavily into her alleged past, digging up details about her social media presence, including her association with platforms like OnlyFans character. And while Gabriella's team argues that these details are irrelevant to the case, the court of public opinion is another story. Suddenly, the focus has shifted from what Shannon is accused of to who Gabriella is, and the lines between victim blaming and legitimate defense are becoming dangerously blurred.
Gil, I mean, I remember walking out and CJ, the producer of the show, he's like, "Shannon, this is gonna blow up the internet."
And then there's the audio. Oh, the audio. The clip Gabriella's lawyer released was only 30 seconds long, but it was enough to ignite a firestorm. Shannon's voice, unmistakable and unnervingly calm, can be heard making comments that, depending on who you ask, range from inappropriate to downright threatening. His team has tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, claiming it was taken out of context and part of a large erase the words. It doesn't soften the tone, and for many, hearing Shannon in that clip was the moment they stopped giving him the benefit of the doubt. Because no matter how you slice it, there's something chilling about hearing a man with that much power and influence speaking in a way that feels, well, predatory.
Like the Deshaun Watson cases where there were 20 plus plaintiffs and they weren't really sure who the people were who were making the claims. In this case, Shannon Sharpe knows exactly who it is because there had been, and it's clear from the statement issued by his lawyer, Lanny Davis, there had been some pre-litigation efforts to try to resolve this.
But Gabriella's side isn't without its own controversies. The text messages Shannon's team released paint a picture that's far from one-sided. They're explicit, yes, but they're also deeply revealing, showing a dynamic that's as complicated as it is contentious. Gabriella's words at times seem to contradict her claims, and Shannon's team has been quick to highlight every inconsistency. But here's where it gets even trickier. Gabriella's lawyer insists that the texts were cherry-picked, deliberately taken out of context to paint her in the worst possible light. And if that's true, what else haven't we seen yet?
But it just took off. Yeah. And everybody was they were just shaking their head. I was like, what? They're like, Shannon, this is gonna go crazy. Yeah.
And if the inconsistencies weren't enough to muddy the waters, Shannon's team has also pointed to Gabriella's alleged attempts to leverage their relationship for financial gain long before the lawsuit was filed. According to documents they've hinted at but haven't yet fully disclosed, Gabriella allegedly discussed making money off their private moments, even floating the idea of selling stories to tabloids. While her legal team denies this outright, calling it a smear tactic, the mere suggestion of such behavior has given Shannon's defenders plenty of ammunition. It's a strategy straight out of the playbook: question the accuser's motives until the accusations themselves are overshadowed by doubt.
That's how we found out about the lawsuit against Shannon Sharpe. Now, this one has some very strong allegations: sexual assault, sexual battery, assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress. The sexual components obviously give it greater gravity than careless.
But Gabriella's team isn't backing down. In fact, they're doubling down, claiming that these new claims from Shannon's side are nothing more than desperate attempts to discredit her before the real evidence comes to light. Tony Busby has promised that more shocking revelations are on the way, revelations that, according to him, will leave no room for doubt about what really happened. The tension between the two camps is palpable, each one escalating the stakes, each one determined to control the narrative. And for the public watching this spectacle unfold, the question becomes, who's telling the truth? And who's just trying to survive the fallout?
Okay.
When we know something is wrong, everything Katt Williams sat here and said,
right,
we all know it to be the truth.
And let's not forget Tony Busby, the high-profile lawyer representing Gabriella. This isn't his first rodeo. He's built a reputation as a legal bulldog, taking on some of the biggest names in the business, and he's clearly not afraid to go toe-to-toe with Shannon's legal powerhouse. But Busby's involvement has also raised questions. Some see him as a champion for victims, a man willing to take on powerful figures in the name of justice. Others see him as an opportunist, someone who knows how to play the media game and isn't above using a high-profile case to boost his own brand. Either way, his presence has added another layer of intrigue to an already convoluted saga. And speaking of layers, let's talk about Shannon's past, because it's coming back to haunt him in a big way. As the lawsuit unfolds, other incidents are being dredged up, incidents that Shannon would probably rather the world forgot. From the choking allegation on the set of his former show to the restraining order filed against him in 2010, the narrative that's emerging isn't just about one bad relationship. It's about a pattern, a history that's as troubling as it is telling. And while Shannon's team is quick to dismiss these past claims as baseless or exaggerated, the sheer number of them is hard to ignore. Is this a case of smoke without fire? Or is there something deeper, darker, and more systemic at play?
Alrighty, y'all. So the Shannon Sharpe ESPN does he still keep his job conversation is beginning to, I was gonna say beginning to happen, but it's been happening, but I think now it's beginning to get louder because of different things that Attorney Busby has released, including the audios. So right now the conversation is, why is Shannon Sharpe still able to be?
And then there's Monique, the voice of reason that everyone ignored. Her words from that infamous podcast episode have taken on a life of their own, resurfacing in memes, tweets, and think pieces as the scandal unfolds. People are calling her a prophet, a sage, a truth teller who saw what no one else wanted to see. And while it's tempting to frame her as the hero of this story, the reality is far more complicated. Because for all her wisdom, even Monique couldn't have predicted just how messy, how convoluted, and how damaging this situation would become. And now, as the fallout continues, her advice feels less like a warning and more like an omen, a reminder of what happens when you ignore the people who care enough to tell you the hard truths.
We're now beginning to bring up past things that have happened with Shannon Sharpe, including a temporary restraining order that was filed against him back in 2010 from a woman that he was dealing with at the time, who accused him of sexual assault. He said in different things. Now, this was dropped. It was dismissed, that restraining.
So here we are, caught in the eye of a storm that shows no signs of letting up. The lawsuits, the audio, the texts, the past allegations, it's all swirling together in a chaotic whirlwind that's as exhausting as it is captivating. And as more details come to light, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. This isn't just a scandal, it's a reckoning, a moment of truth for everyone involved. But the question remains, how far will it go? How much deeper can this rabbit hole get? And when the dust finally settles, who will be left standing? Let us know what you think down below, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.